You know that feeling when you witness someone's boss make the worst mistake of his life? I'm about to tell you a story that's absolutely unbelievable. Buckle up.
I need to take you back to January 2019. I was a senior compliance officer at TechCore Industries, a mid-sized software company in Austin, Texas. I'd been there for 7 years, working my way up from an entry-level position. I was good at my job, really good.
Sarah wasn't just good. She was the only person in that entire company who truly understood the labyrinth of federal regulations their government contracts required. But she didn't know that yet. None of them did.
It started with a cough, just a little cough in December. By early January, I couldn't get out of bed without feeling like my chest was in a vice. I finally went to the doctor, and they ran tests. Pneumonia. Severe pneumonia. The doctor told me I needed at least 3 weeks of complete rest, possibly more.
Miss Williams, I'm not exaggerating when I say this could become life-threatening if you don't rest. Your immune system is compromised. You need to stop working immediately.
I remember sitting in that examination room, holding the doctor's note, thinking about the Henderson Project. We were 3 weeks away from a major federal compliance audit that could make or break a $70 million contract. But I had no choice. I called my boss.
Let's pause here. This is where most people would think, okay, he's being unreasonable, but he'll come around. But Sarah knew Marcus. She'd seen him bully employees before, seen him cut corners, seen him prioritize profit over people every single time.
Marcus, I'm not asking for permission. I'm informing you that I'll be on medical leave per my doctor's orders. This is protected under FMLA. I've sent all the required documentation to HR.
You know what, Sarah? I've had enough of your attitude. You think you're irreplaceable? You're not. If you walk out that door for 3 weeks, don't bother coming back. Consider this your termination.
I felt my blood run cold. Did he just fire me for taking medically necessary leave?
Mr. Brennan, I don't
pay you to think, Linda. Process her termination, effective immediately.
Here's what Marcus didn't know. In his rage, in his absolute certainty that he was running his company the way he saw fit, he had just committed one of the most expensive employment law violations possible.
I sat in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes, just staring at the steering wheel. Then something clicked. I wasn't angry anymore. I was calm, eerily calm, because I knew exactly what was going to happen next, and it wasn't going to be pretty for TechCore Industries.
Miss Williams, walk me through this one more time. He fired you in front of a witness explicitly because you requested FMLA-protected medical leave?
That's exactly what happened. I have the termination email, the witness, Linda from HR, and the complete medical documentation showing the severity of my condition.
And you were the lead compliance officer for their federal contracts?
The only compliance officer who fully understood the Henderson Project requirements. They have a mandatory audit in 3 weeks that determines whether they keep a $70 million contract.
Oh, this is extraordinary. Miss Williams, I'm going to be very direct with you. You don't just have a wrongful termination case. You have a nuclear bomb.
James Morrison wasn't exaggerating. See, what Sarah knew, and what Marcus was about to find out the hard way, was that federal government contracts have very specific requirements about wrongful termination, especially involving FMLA violations.
I filed the EEOC complaint the next day, but that was just step one.
Now, here's where this gets interesting. Under the Federal Acquisition Regulation, or FAR, companies holding government contracts must maintain strict compliance with labor laws. A proven FMLA violation isn't just a civil matter. It can trigger a mandatory review of all their federal contracts.
Which means
we're not just suing for wrongful termination. We're potentially putting every government contract they have under a microscope.
what happened?
Marcus tried to have the junior compliance analyst handle the Henderson audit. She quit after 3 days, said the documentation was incomplete, and she refused to sign off on something that would get her license revoked. 2 other people tried after that, both quit.
And the audit?
It's in 4 days, Sarah. 4 days. And we have nothing ready. Marcus is losing his mind. He's screaming at everyone, threatening to fire the entire department. The auditors are already asking questions about why the lead compliance officer suddenly disappeared.
Here's the thing about federal audits. They're not just checking paperwork, they're checking the integrity of the entire operation. And when auditors hear that the only qualified compliance officer was fired right before a major audit, red flags everywhere.
Mr. Brennan, can you explain why your senior compliance officer is no longer with the company as of 2 weeks ago?
There were performance issues. We had to let her go.
Performance issues? According to her file, she had 7 years of perfect reviews and was specifically cited in your contract proposal as the key personnel for compliance oversight. We need to speak with her.
That's not necessary. We have other qualified staff.
Mr. Brennan, this isn't optional. Her departure, especially at this critical juncture, raises serious concerns about your company's ability to maintain contract compliance. We're also going to need documentation of the termination process.
Marcus's worst nightmare was unfolding in real time, but it got worse.
My attorney called me on day 3 of the audit.
Sarah, the federal auditors reached out. They want your testimony about the compliance status of the Henderson project. They also want to know why you were terminated.
What did you tell them?
I told them the truth, that you were fired in direct violation of FMLA, and that you'd be happy to provide testimony under oath about both the termination and any compliance concerns you had about the project.
Did I have compliance concerns? Absolutely. There were 3 areas where Marcus had pushed us to cut corners to save money. Nothing egregiously illegal, but definitely in the gray area. I documented everything.
The audit results came back 2 weeks later. TechCore Industries failed, catastrophically.
Sarah, they pulled the Henderson contract. All $70 million. But that's not even the worst part. The failure triggered a review of all their government contracts. They're losing everything.
How is Marcus handling it?
He's not. The board is calling for his resignation. The company's stock has dropped 40%, and I heard through Linda that your lawsuit is moving forward.
The lawsuit. Let's talk about that.
Sarah, they want to settle. Their lawyers approached me this morning.
When the Department of Labor gets involved, it's a different ballgame. They have the power to impose fines, penalties, and sanctions that go far beyond civil litigation.
Ms. Williams, our investigation has uncovered a pattern of FMLA violations and retaliation at TechCore Industries. Yours isn't the only case. We found 4 other instances in the past 3 years where employees were terminated or demoted after requesting medical leave.
4 others? I had no idea.
They were all settled quietly with NDAs, but your case broke it wide open. We're pursuing maximum penalties.
The Department of Labor eventually fined TechCore Industries $4.2 million, but the real damage was still coming.
6 months after my termination, I got a call from James.
Sarah, TechCore just filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The loss of the government contracts combined with the DOL penalties, our lawsuit and 3 other lawsuits that came out of the woodwork, they couldn't survive it.
And Marcus?
Forced out by the board 4 months ago. Last I heard, he's facing personal liability because he was directly involved in the termination decision. His legal fees alone are probably going to bankrupt him personally.
The final settlement came 13 months after Sarah's termination.
Sarah, we did it! $2.8 million settlement. Plus, they're covering all your medical expenses, lost wages, and they're required to send a letter of recommendation to any employer you choose.
I remember hanging up the phone and just sitting there. $2.8 million. But you want to know the strangest part? It wasn't about the money. Not really.
Sarah used part of the settlement to start a consulting firm specializing in compliance and employee rights. Today, she makes more in a year than she did in 5 years at TechCore.
People ask me if I feel guilty about what happened to TechCore, about the employees who lost their jobs when the company went under. And here's my honest answer. I didn't bankrupt that company. Marcus did. The moment he decided his ego was more important than the law, more important than basic human decency, he set everything in motion.
The bankruptcy trustee's final report valued the total loss at just over $10 million when you factored in the lost contracts, the penalties, the legal fees, and the settlement payments.
I saw Marcus one more time, about a year after everything concluded. I was at a coffee shop and he walked in. Our eyes met. He looked defeated, older, tired.
Sarah,
I didn't let him finish. I just walked past him. What was there to say? Sorry? Sorry doesn't give people back their health, their dignity, their livelihoods.
There's a lesson here, and it's not complicated. Employment laws exist for a reason. FMLA exists for a reason. When you're running a company, when you have power over people's lives, you have a responsibility to wield that power ethically.
You know what the ironic part is? If Marcus had just approved my sick leave, I would have come back in 3 weeks, helped them ace the Henderson audit, and probably worked there for another decade. Instead, he lost everything because he couldn't stand the idea of an employee having rights he had to respect.
TechCore Industries officially dissolved in 2021. The building where Sarah used to work is now a CrossFit gym. Marcus Brennan's LinkedIn profile hasn't been updated in 3 years.
As for me, I'm doing better than I ever thought possible. My consulting firm has 12 employees now. We specialize in helping companies maintain compliance and treat their employees like human beings. Imagine that.
The total cost of Marcus's decision to deny Sarah's sick leave? $10 million. One company, one career, and countless destroyed relationships.
Sometimes I wonder if he thinks about that moment, that phone call where he decided to fire me, instead of just letting me rest and recover. Does he lie awake at night doing the math? Does he understand that 3 weeks of my salary versus $10 million in losses was probably the worst business decision in the history of business decisions?
We reached out to Marcus Brennan for comment on this story. He declined through his attorney.
Here's what I want people to take away from this. Know your rights. Document everything. And if you're in a position of power, remember that the people who work for you are human beings, not resources to be exploited and discarded. Because karma keeps receipts.
Sarah Williams now runs Williams Compliance Consulting, a multi-million-dollar firm. Her first employee? Linda, the HR director who witnessed her termination and quit TechCore 3 days later.
Linda and I joke sometimes about that day in Marcus's office. She always says the same thing. I knew right then we were witnessing career suicide. I just didn't know it would be that spectacular.
And that's the story of how a denied sick leave request led to a $10 million bankruptcy. Sometimes justice is served. Sometimes the universe balances the scales. And sometimes people like Marcus Brennan learn the most expensive lessons imaginable.
3 weeks. All he had to give me was 3 weeks.
Instead, it cost him everything.
Important legal notice. TechCore Industries is a completely fictional company name created solely for this dramatization. If any real company exists with a similar name, this story has no connection to them whatsoever. This is pure coincidence. All characters, events, and incidents in this story are entirely fictional. Any resemblance to actual persons, companies, or events is purely coincidental and unintentional. This content is for entertainment purposes only.